the reason why people are talking about cryptocurrency so much right now, and the point that people should be taking away from it, in my view, is that it's dollar or fiat money rejection.
Are you tired of overpaying for your gold, silver, and platinum bullion coins and bars? Then visit sdbullion.com today. SD Bullion was recently named the 177th fastest growing company in the United States by Inc. magazine. This is because they offer the absolute lowest prices in the industry and follow up with over-the-top customer service. So what are you waiting for? Go to sdbullion.com today and join more than 60,000 happy investors that save money on every precious metals purchase they make.
Hey everyone, this is Elijah Johnson with silverdoctors.com, and back with us today is Rob Kirby from Kirby Analytics. Rob, thank you so much for joining us today.
Pleasure to be with you again, Elijah.
All right, now I'd like to start off with Bitcoin. I know some people on are commenting, you know, all you guys talk about right now is Bitcoin, but it really all ties back into precious metals, as you've talked about. A lot of people right now with Bitcoin, you know, hitting, I don't know, it's 18,000 right now, somewhere around there. A lot of people are like, wait a second, precious metals aren't moving at all. It seems like Bitcoin is the only thing that's moving. Should I sell my precious metals and go into Bitcoin? What is your take?
Well, my take on that, Elijah, is having a discussion about whether you should sell your physical precious metal to buy virtual cryptocurrencies is a ridiculous. To me, it's a non-argument to begin with, because to me that's like having a discussion. If my stock portfolio doubles in the first quarter of the year, does that mean that I should cancel my fire insurance in the second quarter of the year and apply the premium to the stock market? To me, that's a completely ridiculous argument, because one is a speculation and the other one is insurance. So I differentiate the two, and I believe that physical precious metal is the ultimate in an insurance policy for your financial well-being, and it will perform when all else fails. So anyway, I'd like to get that clear right from the beginning.
Definitely, and you've talked about how one of the reasons that cryptocurrencies are moving right now is not because, you know, the small investors are moving into cryptocurrencies, but you're saying that a lot of the big money is moving into cryptocurrencies because they're not seeing precious metals moving, and they know that money, as you say, is going to be worth jack in the future. Yeah.
Well, you see, this goes back to a theme that I've discussed in a lot of recent interviews. The amount of money that's in existence in the world is far greater than what most people understand or can comprehend, because I've talked about the existence of dark money. And this is the same kind of money that people like Catherine Austin Fitts and Dr. Mark Skidmore, an acclaimed economist at Michigan State University, doing his homework, busting the government's own financial figures. He's identified in two agencies of the U.S. government from the period of 1997 up to 2015, $21 trillion in missing money. So, you know, the money was created fraudulently. I'm most assuredly can rest with, you know, my thoughts that the money was created fraudulently, but it's hiding in dark pools. And when people like the Federal Reserve give us monetary aggregates where they say money supply is X, well, the real money supply is probably 10X or 20X or some factor of X. And most people don't even understand it is. And the people that are in control of this money, they know what a heinous fraud the money creation process has been. And they're afraid that the money that they're sitting on could become quite worthless in the very near future, because what we're witnessing through the very rapid appreciation of the crypto world is, you know, to me this spells nothing but fiat money rejection, and it's a rejection of our current banking system, and it's a rejection of money as we've known it and as it's been presented to us let's just say post 1971, when President Nixon closed the gold window, which allowed sovereigns to, if they felt there were too many dollars being created, they had the ability to diversify and convert dollars into physical metal. But we can't do that anymore, and we notice that the price of precious metals aren't moving, and a great sort of illustrative descriptive of why the price of precious metal can't move is just look at the COMEX and look at the open interest in silver alone. The open interest in COMEX right now is about 207,000 contracts. 5,000 ounces of silver make up one contract. And this means that in the COMEX exchange alone, there is the equivalent of short positions over 1 billion ounces of silver. Well, the Earth does not mine, or on the planet Earth, we don't mine 1 billion ounces of silver in a given year. And I think the number currently is around 820 million ounces of silver, if I've got my metrics right there. So, I mean, one exchange has sold more silver than it gets mined out of the Earth's crust in a year. And the amount of silver that COMEX warehouses have in their inventories to back up, or the allowing of all this shorting of silver, is a complete fraction of 1 billion ounces. So, and that's just one exchange. And then London, the process gets replicated again. So price discovery in precious metals is a complete and utter fraud. Prices are being set by digital and or paper ounces on exchanges that are centrally controlled. And you see the cryptocurrencies, to contrast, they aren't centrally controlled. They trade 24/7, which makes them a whole lot different than process-wise than the metals, because you look, and recently, I guess just last week we had the advent or the beginning of trading of Bitcoin futures. And I was reading a little bit about this last weekend, and it was said that the amount of margin one must post to short a Bitcoin future is 5 times the amount one must post if they want to go long a Bitcoin future. And the other thing that's amazing, there's no mechanism with Bitcoin futures where anybody can buy a future and actually receive a Bitcoin. And this to me is likely the downfall, or what will discredit Bitcoin futures. To me, these things will fail. And the other big thing that this futures market, fledgling Bitcoin futures market, has going against it is that this is a market that trades during COMEX hours. And COMEX is an entity that opens at 8:20 in the morning and closes for business at 1:30 in the afternoon Eastern time. And then it has some sort of spotty Globex trading through the middle of the night on weekdays. But these things basically shut down Friday evening in the Eastern time zone, and they don't reawaken until Sunday night. Bitcoin, on the other hand, the underlying Bitcoin market trades 24/7 with active markets. And I mean, in a given day or in a given few hour period, we can see Bitcoin go up 1,000 or 1,500 or down 1,000 or 1,500. And, there's no futures market in Bitcoin between Friday evening until Sunday night. So this, to me, makes this whole Bitcoin future thing a non-starter. And I do believe that it was created in vain hopes on the part of officialdom to be able to basically harness or lasso. And you see, it's an attempt this whole futures or bringing futures on in Bitcoin and in the cryptocurrencies, it's an attempt to centralize something that draws its appeal and its power by virtue of being decentralized. And the two just don't meet, they can't coexist together, which is why Bitcoin futures will fail. And you see, with the institutional precious metals market, it trades more or less 24 hours a day, but beginning Sunday night. The precious metals market winds down on Friday evening, and there's no institutional trade in gold from Friday evening until markets reopen on Sunday night. And this is a huge differentiating factor between why precious metals can be controlled, because they're priced and the trade is controlled centrally, whereas Bitcoin trades internationally, and there's always a live market for Bitcoin. So two huge differences, and the reason why people are talking about cryptocurrency so much right now, and the point that people should be taking away from it, in my view, is that it's dollar or fiat money rejection, period.
Now, in the end, you've also said, though, that you think gold and silver will be worth more than cryptocurrencies. Is that right?
Yeah, well, there's a saying that in the end, all fiat money burns and reverts to its intrinsic value, which is zero, because it's backed by nothing. So I'm talking about a fire here. I'm talking at some point there's going to be a fire. It's guaranteed. It's baked into the ingredients are in the pan and they're baking in the oven. So with everything, paper inevitably is going to burn. I don't want to cancel my fire insurance. And physical precious metals, not COMEX futures contracts, but physical ounces of precious metal are my financial my financial well-being fire insurance. So when you know there's going to be a fire, it's not a good time to cancel your fire insurance. Because when it pays, it'll pay big. So we just haven't had honest price discovery for precious metals for quite some time. But what's occurring in the crypto space is highlighting to me in big neon sign verbiage how fraudulent the existing financial way is, and there's just no way that this is gonna be able to continue.
Now, you've also talked about gold-backed cryptocurrencies possibly in the future. I had some viewers submit some questions, and this viewer is wanting to know if you can elaborate on your knowledge of this and whether you think people will be able to redeem their cryptocurrency, that particular cryptocurrency, for gold. How do you think that would all work out?
My view of what's coming in the precious metals market is that physical metal will be cryptoized, and applying blockchain modus operandi to physical precious metals trading will just mean that purveyors cannot sell a physical ounce more than once, because the act of selling it once on the blockchain, the sale will be logged, and the way the contract will be written and will present itself to the world will be that it will not be able to be sold again. It's sort of like you can't sell a Bitcoin you don't own. You will not be able to sell a crypto ounce of metal that you don't own, and there will be a redeemability feature built into the contract where you can surrender your contracts and receive physical metal. So what crypto-ized precious metal will bring to the game is more transparency in the price discovery, and basically, to me, these things will be the undoing of fraudulent exchanges like COMEX and the LBMA, where the amount of metal that's alleged to be held in inventory is sold many, many, many times over to satiate incredible demand, because the demand for physical metal in the world has been met with a lot of gaming and a lot of double counting, and it's been a really, really incredibly masterfully handled stage show, an illusion. And the reality is, physical precious metal institutionally around the world has been in extremely tight supply, and that is something that I'm quite privy to, and that's what allows me to say with conviction, at some point this will end.
Bruce is wanting to know, when there is so much evidence that gold and silver are being manipulated by the big 8 bullion banks, why is there nothing done about it legally?
Because the chief architect of the price manipulation is the United States Treasury, or the U.S. government, acting in cahoots with the global central banking community. Because these are the masters of our debt-based monetary system, and these people. Let's just say the debt-based monetary system is what gives the powers that be their power, and therefore they're willing to cooperate to maintain the status quo, which is them being in control. So it's all about control, and the powers that be have control, and they want to maintain control. And for them to maintain control, they must have their monetary regime appear to have legitimacy and appear to be stable. And the cryptocurrencies are really throwing a wrench into the let's just say the machinery of having things appear normal, and having things appear, and having people appear to be confident in the status quo, or the US dollar, or the euro, or whatever.
And the same viewer is wanting to know, why don't some of the large owners of gold and silver, why aren't they getting nervous about this and demanding physical delivery?
Well, I'm going to just say to you, people like or countries like China, Russia, are doing just that, and people in the Western world have been there's anecdotal evidence when Warren Buffett acquired a very, very, very substantial amount of silver back in the 1990s. He ran into difficulties with the U.S. administration. Because they were very concerned that he was, acquiring silver. Look what the powers that be, or the status quo in our financial community, did to the Hunts when they bought silver back in 79 and 80, when they ran the price up to $50. They changed the rules of engagement in the U.S. Commodities Exchange, or the COMEX, and they allowed the Hunts to only liquidate. They couldn't buy, and they couldn't take delivery. So bad things happen in the Western world to people who are very fond of physical metal, and are seen, if they're seen publicly to be acquiring it, things happen, and their ability to conduct business is interfered with severely, and there are numerous examples of just this happening. And it goes back again to this control thing. And we also, in additionally, in the mainstream media in the Western world, we have a well-organized machine, a well-oiled machine that labels people who are fond of metal as conspiracy theorists, tinfoil hat wearers, and the organized media campaign against precious metal is very similar in a certain respect to the organized media campaign and the hate and vitriol that they express against President Trump, because Trump does not represent the powers that be, or the soon-to-be powers that were, interests very well. And he's a non-politician, or he's an outsider, and he's cast with more hate and vitriol in the Western media than I've ever experienced in my life. and it's to the point where it's become like most people that I communicate with, refer to the the 3-letter news agencies in America. I just refer to them all as Trump hate, and they've become so laughable, and they've become such a dark stain on America and on everything America has ever stood for, because all you need to do is turn them on for a minute and a half, and you hear nothing but spewing of hatred and vitriol like I have never heard in all of my life. But this organized campaign against Trump is very similar, Elijah, to the organized hatred and disregard for precious metal. Very, very similar. And because institutional investors, if they start speaking about their fondness or their want to invest in precious metal, they're immediately referred to as a gold bug. And bugs are generally things that people step on or squash, an unwanted guests. And this is what it's the let's just say it's what they're trying to sell to people is that if you buy precious metal in the Western world anyway, you're crazy. Just like people who believe that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone in the killing of President Kennedy. For years and years and years, they were labeled as conspiracy theorists by the establishment, and we now know that this lone gunman theory was a complete crock of beans, and it was an inside job. Well, you know what? The suppression of precious metals prices is an inside job, and the perpetuation of the dollar has been an inside job. And the perpetuation of this endless amount of debt that America has been foisting on the world is also an inside job. And the amount of money that exists in the real world is much greater than anyone understands. And the people that control that dark money, they also know their day in the sunshine is coming to an end. And that is why they are trying to diversify. And why they're buying, in the pre-interview, Elijah, we had a quick little discussion where I said to you, who exactly do you think is buying Bitcoin at $8,800 a coin? It sure as heck isn't moms and pops.
Right.
It isn't people who are trying to make next month's mortgage payment and don't know where they're going to get the money to pay next month's mortgage or put food on the table next month. This is big money. This is big money. And this is people who have big money who are very concerned that the big money is not performing well. And that's why they're choosing cryptocurrencies, because they have some semblance or resemble a free market. And up until now, certainly, our precious metals have not been allowed to demonstrate that they trade in any kind of a free market. But that doesn't mean we abandon precious metal. It's, I don't cancel my fire insurance because my house didn't burn down. I actually say, thank you, Lord. My house didn't burn down, and I will gladly pay next year's premium, because when I need it, it'll be there. And, and that's what I believe. And there are people that might think that, ask people in LA if their houses can burn down. Ask people in LA if they want to cancel their fire insurance. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to cancel mine. I will maintain my fire insurance for my physical or my financial well-being, plain and simple. So that's my view on that.
All right. Well, Rob Kirby, thank you so much for joining us today. Before we let you go, did you want to share with the viewers any last thoughts you had and where they can find you online?
Well, you can catch me on the web at kirbyanalytics.com, and from a financial perspective, I just say, there should always be a place in your portfolio for physical precious metal, and there may be or may not be a place in your portfolio for the speculative instruments that are cryptocurrencies. And but I don't view it being ever being a decision whether I have one or the other. Anyway, I think there's room for both, and there's nothing wrong also with having some storable food, hidden away somewhere, and because you don't, if you buy some storable food that maybe has a 25-year storage life, just because you didn't need to use it in the first 6 months or first 8 months of having it stored, it doesn't mean that you should get rid of it. It might actually mean that you should get some more as your resources allow you to add to your stash, because that's also insurance, right? And then and it's like, because nobody invaded my home and I didn't need to use my gun, should I get rid of my gun? Probably not. Might be a good idea to keep, if you're going to be of the mind to acquire things like storable food, like physical precious metal, like any artwork or pleasantries that people have in life, it's probably not a bad idea to have a means to protect it all. So anyway, that's kind of sort of where my head's at. And we're living in unprecedented and very exciting times, because what we're seeing is a changing of the guard, and we're seeing the decline of fiat money, and this is certainly exciting time to live, and I'm happy to be alive. So there you go.
All right. Once again, Rob, Kirby, thank you so much for your time today.
Pleasure being with you.